Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Realm Between, God of Life, by Phoenix Gray. Narrated by Neil Hellegers. Chapter 1. The Realm, Day 516. If Pathiana was like Earth, then Shiden was like a dream. The change in scenery was subtle at first. As they walked through the field and the borderland that signaled the crossing over into the new continent, Azure noticed that the lushness of the green grass dulled. It was not a loss of color from dying that he was seeing. Pastel hues took the place of bright pigmentation, and there was a slow but distinct gradient to the field. By the time they had reached the forest beyond, even the texture of the grass had changed. It parted to the weight of Azure's armor as if made of nothing at all. He had thought the feeling imagined at first until he reached down to stroke the grass and found it was as light and flexible as a string blowing in the wind. Azure tried his best not to seem surprised by this. None of his traveling companions perceptibly noticed the change in scenery at all. They simply pressed on, narrowed in on their destination. There were many things that Azure had to adjust to as they ventured further into Shiden. Instead of petals, about half of the flowering plants had feather-like blooms, reminding him of dandelions. They were also much larger than the flowers he'd seen in other parts of the realm. While the pastel landscape eventually became par for the course, everything seemed dulled in one sense or another. However, the lack of pigmentation did not cause a depressive effect. Instead, his surroundings produced a soothing, pleasant feeling. Azure did his best to forage whenever he had the chance. You have harvested 673 false weed. Uses alchemy component, temporarily increases HP by +10 if eaten. You have harvested 61 Betty leaf. Uses alchemy component, temporarily increases SP by +10 if eaten. You have harvested 54 evergreen frond. Uses alchemy component, temporarily increases MP by +10 if eaten. You have harvested 80 bell zeduary. Uses alchemy component. You have harvested 39 Dyer's Ink plant. Uses alchemy component, restores +20 SP if eaten. It seemed that most of what he could forage in Shiden had some use. Azure doubted he'd be selling much of what he'd gathered, especially the Dyer's Ink plant, though it didn't look particularly appealing, the only plant Azure had seen in Shiden that was solid black. It restored almost as much stamina as a potion of minor stamina. With two thin leaves at its base that folded over, the Dyer's Ink plant consisted of one long stalk that ended at a point. The first time Azure tried to eat it, he'd almost spit it out. Black licorice on steroids was the best way to describe the taste. Princess Sidori had scrunched up her nose when she'd watched him munch on it while they were walking. His expression upon the liquid innards of the plant hitting his tongue had made her smirk. "Doesn't taste good, does it?" The princess's expression was somewhere between sympathy and amusement. Azure stuck out his tongue, wondering if it was black. "That's why people don't usually ingest it in its natural form. They wait until it can be made into a potion," she informed him. The flavor lingered long after Azure had discarded the rest of the plant, and no amount of water seemed to wash it out. After about half an hour of taste bud misery, he decided that maybe it was worth forking out the coin for potions of minor stamina instead. If Dyer's Ink plant was a component used to make them, it was probably worth a lot. Perhaps the trade-off wouldn't be so expensive. Just from foraging alone, Azure raked in a massive amount of experience, leveling the skill several times and earning another perk at level 20. Congratulations, the skill of foraging has reached level 19, 20, 21, 22. Plants collected through foraging have a variety of uses. You can sell them, consume them, or use them to create potions through alchemy. You now have a 5% chance of yielding 2 of the same item when foraging. The first time Azure saw the perk in action was a bit jarring. He had just harvested a false weed, which was a mimic of other weeds around it. In fact, the only way Azure could identify one was by pulling up all the foliage around it as well and waiting to see if he received a notification of success. Once the message popped up, the false weed would take on a yellowish tint to help him discern it from the other clumps of grass in his hand. The plant itself was thin, with a thick yellow bloom atop it. How the skinny stalk supported the weight of the flower, Azure would never know. It defied the laws of physics, as many things in the realm did. After brushing away the actual weeds from the false one, Azure watched as the plant began to split in his hand. At first he had thought it alive, a monster in disguise, and had dropped it and stepped back. But by the time the false weed had hit the ground, the process had completed, and it had divided into 2 plants. At that time, he received another notification. Congratulations, you have received a double yield. Relief had flushed through Azure, and he had looked around, a little embarrassed when he noticed his traveling companions staring at him oddly. The second time it had happened, it was far less shocking. For a while after, every time Azure harvested something, he waited with anticipation for the plant to split, a strange drop of adrenaline rolling through his veins. It was the same feeling he got when gambling, though this was a bit less exciting. Birds seemed more abundant in Shiden, their plumage almost unsettlingly colorful in contrast to the foliage around them. They were practically incapable of hiding in the branches. For the first few days of the group's travels through the country of life, Azure found his focus quickly diverted to the birds when he'd see one fly by or perched in a tree. As for insects, Shiden seemed to lack most of the creepy crawlies of Pathiana, though there was no shortage of butterfly-like creatures that Princess Sidori informed him were called helioflies. Their wings glowed with the light of their color, either blue, red, or yellow. In the daytime, the illumination was so faint that it was barely perceivable, but at night they were every bit as vibrant as the jumpywinks had been. Unlike the jumpywinks that flitted around carrying mana through the huge wilds, the helioflies would find a choice flower to rest on, keeping stationary like living nightlights. The princess explained that each heliofly provided healing benefits relevant to their color to the creatures that consumed them. The red ones granted health, the blue ones provided mana, and the yellow ones were rich in stamina. The amount of each was dependent on the size and age of the heliofly, and there was no way to tell how much a creature would receive until the heliofly was consumed. "Should we start catching them and saving them for later?" Azure asked, now seeing the creatures as more of an item than a living thing. Princess Sidori shook her head. "They will not survive in a bag. They are worthless dead, their properties rendered null within mere seconds of their expiry. Short of catching and eating them where they fly, there are no benefits to humans. Monsters love them, though." Of which there were plenty. Without the hourglass of impending death hanging over Azure's head rushing them along, Jin was less cautious about avoiding enemies. Often he'd lead them straight into danger just for the experience. That made the over 2,000-mile trip to the Crystal Forest where Diacetet resided even longer as they hacked and slashed their way through Shiden, defeating a variety of monsters that Azure had never seen or heard of before. They racked up an impressive amount of experience as they went, all leveling up several times and collecting a myriad of loot. Congratulations, you are now level 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Your base stats have been boosted. You have earned 3 points to assign to your characteristics per level. Please note that adding points to some characteristics, vitality, intelligence, and strength will further boost your base stats. You may also advance any one skill of your choosing by 1 level per level. You have received the following items. Rabbit Pelt. Quantity 92, item class common, quality average, weight 0.1 kilograms, uses crafting. Deer Pelt, quantity 87, item class common, quality average, weight 1.8 kilograms, uses crafting. Uncooked rabbit meat, quantity 92, item class common, quality average, weight 0.5 kilograms, uses cooking. Uncooked deer meat, quantity 4,785, item class common, quality average, weight 0.5 kilograms, uses cooking. Uncooked boar meat, quantity 11,700, item class common, quality average, weight 0.5 kilograms, uses cooking. Mushroom poison extract, quantity 17, item class common, quality average, weight 0.0 kilograms, uses alchemy component. Plant poison extract, item class common, quality average, weight 0.0 kilograms, uses alchemy component. Small cloth cap, defense +2, type light armor, durability 11 of 20, item class common, quality poor, weight 0.0 kilograms. Small cloth pants, defense +3, type light armor, durability 25 of 20, item class common, quality average, weight 0.3 kilograms. Small cloth sandals, defense +1, type light armor, durability 21 of 21, item class common, quality average, weight 0.4 kilograms. Blue mesh tunic, defense +8, type light armor, durability 14 of 21, item class uncommon, quality good, weight 0.8 kilograms. Rune of Chance, item class rare, quality average, weight 0.0 kilograms, uses. Used to make Chance spell scroll. Rune of the Leader, item class rare, quality average, weight 0.0 kilograms, uses. Used to make Pathmaker spell scroll. Rune of Weak Haste, item class rare, quality average, weight 0.0 kilograms, uses. Used to make Weak Haste spell scroll. Iridium Ore, item class common, quality average, weight 0.1 kilograms, uses. Contains iridium, can be smelted for crafting. Batwing, item class common, quality average, weight 0.0 kilograms, uses. Loot, sell for coin. Azure never thought it would happen, but his small bag of holding finally ran out of space with all the uncooked meat he had been collecting, so he eventually had to start selling the excesses. It seemed like a colossal waste of animal life for them to hunt for sport, but Azure could not stop the elf and the half-imp from doing it. Lionel's past chastisements went out of the window. When in Rome... Azure was surprised to receive the runes as loot. They had dropped from lesser life elementals, existing at their very core. Each lesser life elemental could only cast the spell of the rune it contained within. As soon as Udin discovered that they dropped the runes, he made it a personal mission to collect them all. All the hunting provided Azure with some additional gains. Congratulations, the skill Analyze has reached level 19, 20, 21, 22. This skill allows you to see how dangerous a foe is in relation to your own level. Use this skill frequently to avoid getting yourself killed. Congratulations, the skill Archery has reached level 9, 10, 11. This skill allows you to use a bow and arrow to defeat enemies. Aim strong and true. Hunting, combined with using his skill leveling ability from leveling up, brought his two-handed weapon skill from 8 to 13. Congratulations, the skill Two-Handed Weapons has reached level 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This skill enables you to use all manner of two-handed weapons to defeat enemies. Increasing your strength will make them easier to wield. At level 10, Azure received the following perk. Strong 1. Using a two-handed weapon now costs 10% less stamina. As soon as they had left the welcoming summit for Shiden, Udin began utilizing the new spells that Finbor had given him. It made Azure all the more aware of his own magical abilities, so he tried to use spells more frequently in battle, causing him to increase his land magic by 1 level. Congratulations, the skill Land Magic has reached level 3. This skill allows you to harness the power of rocks, dirt, and the native flora and trees to aid you in battle. Continuing to level up the skill will unlock the ability to learn more spells of the same magic type. And, of course, Azure frequently flexed his mana in the evening, summoning Flicker to carry whoever was too tired from their travels to walk, which earned him several levels in his enchanting skill. Congratulations, the skill Enchanting has reached level 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. This skill allows you to bring the elements into you to create something new or change the things around you. Continuing to level up this skill will unlock the ability to learn more spells of the same magic type. At level 25, he received the following notification. Congratulations, you now qualify to learn apprentice-level enchanting spells. That would have been exciting news if Azure had any intention of going back to magic school. As it was, he was certain that his career as a mage was indefinitely on hold now that he was captain of the Royal Guard for Jin. Princess Sidori, who had been handling all their cooking in Pathiana, decided that the men should carry their own weight in that regard, so Azure got the chance to level up his cooking skill as well. Congratulations, the skill Cooking has reached level 14, 15, 16. You have to eat to survive. Your mother would be so proud. In his spare time, which there wasn't much of, he worked on tanning hides. Congratulations, the skill Tanning has reached level 5. This skill allows you to turn animal pelts into hides. You are now 12% more likely to create an average quality hide for your efforts. Though Azure started crafting another large leather cloak, he never seemed to be able to motivate himself to finish it. Hand sewing wasn't really his thing, even though the finished product sold for a fair amount of coin. All in all, Azure was pleased with all the gains he'd amassed on their journey through Shiden, which took them to the northeasternmost edge of the country before reaching the sea. Once he distributed his characteristic points, his character sheet had fleshed out nicely. Name, Sir Azure Galvin. Race, human. Level 22, 88% of the way to next level. Health, 560 of 400, 560 with bonus. Mana, 430 of 380, 430 with bonus. Stamina, 425 of 415, 425 with bonus. Vitality, 20, 36 with bonus. Intelligence, 18, 23 with bonus. Strength, 22, 26 with bonus. Agility, 8, 18 with bonus. Dexterity, 7, 13 with bonus. Charisma, 5, 7 with bonus. Luck, 8, 10 with bonus. Skills. Archery level 8, 44% of the way to next level. Stealth level 4, 30% of the way to next level. Analyze level 18, 25% of the way to next level. Cooking level 13, 95% of the way to next level. Alchemy level 6, 0% of the way to next level. Foraging level 18, 54% of the way to next level. One-handed weapons level 4, 10% of the way to next level. Tracking level 1, 70% of the way to next level. Two-handed weapons level 8, 1% of the way to next level. Fishing level 1, 10% of the way to next level. Drinking level 1, 40% of the way to next level. Land magic level 2, 40% of the way to next level. Enchanting level 18, 9% of the way to next level. Mining level 3, 60% of the way to next level. Tanning level 4, 38% of the way to next level. Leatherworking level 1, 50% of the way to next level. Languages: Common Tongue, Sprite, Goblin Tongue, Elvish, Chiaxum. Chapter 2. The Realm, Day 588. The Crystal Forest was just that. About half a mile before they reached the border, Azure had noticed that all the flora leading up to the forest had tiny, sparkling crystals clinging to their stems and leaves. The crystals grew more numerous the closer they got, almost like a type of moss that consumes a tree until it kills it. However, even when the plants were completely covered in the crystals, they did not die, nor did they harden. Touching one of the plants, Azure found it just as pliable as if it had no crystals on it at all. The tiny glittering particles felt like fuzz between his fingertips until he rubbed them together and they turned grainy, the glittery substance crumbling before disappearing into nothingness. "What is this stuff?" Azure furrowed his brow. Princess Sidori simply replied, "Crystals," as if that was supposed to perfectly explain the phenomenon. Soon they noticed small nubs of crystal rising from the ground. Unlike the microscopic crystals dotting the plants, which were clear, these crystals had a light pink hue to them. They also made for difficult terrain. Shortly after Azure had noticed them peeking out beneath the foliage, he stubbed his toe on one. Not long after, they began increasing in size, and it became a game of dodging them while they walked. Azure was happy when they grew tall enough to be easily seen and avoided, jutting out of the ground like beautiful spikes. "Be careful not to fall on one. They're sharp," the elf warned, as if it was needed. For fun, and perhaps to avoid the annoyance of walking around them, Udin took to kicking the crystals in his path, sending shards flying everywhere. The first time he did it was more for inquisitive reasons, as he bent down to see if the broken crystal was worth anything. It wasn't. The second time, he garnered chastisement from both Jin and Princess Sidori. "Stop it!" she scolded him after the third crystal fell to the toe of the half-imp's boot. "Don't you know what those are?" "Life crystals," he replied, his face pinched as if he had expected the lecture that was about to come. "They channel life energy to everything in the realm." The princess's eyes volleyed to everything around them. "Every time you break one, a creature somewhere in the realm dies." That immediately made Azure think of the saying that every time you masturbate, a kitten dies. He couldn't help but smirk. In response, Udin promptly destroyed another crystal, which caused Princess Sidori to spin around and punch him in the shoulder. Her reaction was enough to make the half-imp finally stop when he realized he was actually pissing her off. The crystals only grew taller as the party continued. Soon they were every bit as grand as the trees around them, signaling that Azure and his friends had entered the Crystal Forest. "Be on guard. We are close." The elf unshouldered his bow and slowed his pace. "What does the owl see ahead?" Udin asked when Tiny Owl returned to a light on Jin's shoulder after one of his rounds. The elf shared a glance with the owl before stopping dead in his tracks. They had expected him to announce the presence of a monster. There was always some epic monster before they reached one of the gods for the first time. This one was to be a great moth creature called Whitewind. But it was not Whitewind that left Jin's lips. The words he said produced even more dread than if he had said the monster's name. Nozion military. Udin sighed. Guess we'll have to skirt around them. The elf shook his head. They are guarding Deocetet. We will never reach her without going through them first. So you see her? The half-imp said with excitement. She's encapsulated in a chrysalis, suspended from a crystal tree, Jin explained. There are Nozion guards surrounding her. Rurdum is with them. Princess Sidori cast her gaze down and away. That means my father has sent him to bring me back. Udin ignored her. And what of Whitewind? Defeated already? He asked with raised eyebrows. I don't see the monster anywhere, the elf replied. Perhaps they arrived early, defeated it, and disposed of the body already, Azure offered, equally hopeful that they wouldn't have to deal with the monster that Princess Sidori had informed them could cast an abundance of spells. Jin hummed. There's no way to tell, but that's not important right now. What is important is getting to Deocetet. Without the Nozion military finding out, Azure added. The elf slunk slightly. They already know we're nearby. What? All three of his party members turned to him. How is that possible? The princess's eyes were wide as she searched his face for answers. Rurdum saw Tiny Owl. There isn't enough cover for him here. Jin reached up to stroke the owl's head. Tiny Owl leaned into his touch, looking like he was smiling contentedly, if an owl could smile. What are they doing now? The half-imp asked. Waiting, more than likely. Jin dropped his hand to his side, and the owl shook his head, puffing out his feathers. They know we're coming. They know we have to come. We don't have to come. We could go to one of the other gods, then circle back here, Azure suggested, not really liking his new plan. The thought of all the time they'd wasted traveling through Shiden pained him, but allowing Rurdum to take Princess Sidori back to Nozion wasn't an option. They'd probably spend less time traveling to another continent than they would returning to Nozion to find some way to free the princess of her father's shackles of overprotection. Princess Sidori turned from them, sighing as she took a few steps away and gazed up at one of the taller crystals around them. The men watched her, confused by her sudden separation from them. After a few silent moments, she pivoted. No matter where we go, they will follow. For all we know, my father could have sent Nozion military all over the realm to block our path to all the gods. If I know him well, then he did. He is thorough like that. Her eyes fell to the forest floor, her expression serene. I'm afraid we will have to face them. Surely there's another way. Azure dreaded the idea of having to return to Nozion just as much as he had dreaded the thought of traveling to another god and circling back. Perhaps one of us could create a diversion to lure the Nozion military away from Deocetet while the rest of us speak to her. You're forgetting about Whitewind. Udin sharply cut him off. We don't know for sure if it's already been defeated, Azure shot back. No. The princess held up a hand to stop their bickering. This is the only way. I feel it in my soul. All the while, Jin had been watching quietly, assessing the best course of action. And what if they won't let you go? The half-imp narrowed his eyes at Princess Sidori. Do we just kill them all? Killing them isn't an option, the elf quickly interjected. It most certainly isn't. The princess scowled at Udin. I have known Rurdum since I was a child. I would not allow you to murder him. As if you could stop him. Azure glanced at Jin. Luckily for Princess Sidori, the elf seemed to be on her side in this matter. If we kill these few, Nozion will only send more. Jin clarified his position. It was not about sparing the old knight at all. And if they insist on taking her back? Azure didn't really want to think of that possibility, but it couldn't be ignored. We'll cross that bridge if we come to it, the elf replied firmly. It was unsettling to Azure that Jin didn't have a plan. He always had a plan. The thought of the unknown left a bad taste in Azure's mouth. So we're just going to saunter right up to them, then? The half-imp threw his arms out to his sides. You know we may get arrested for kidnapping the princess. I will not allow them to arrest you, Princess Sidori said with authority. Udin snorted. I know you think you have all the power here, but they will take the king's words over yours. Do not be too sure of that. She pierced him with her gaze. Whatever the case, this can't be helped. The elf shook his head. We should let Zadori do all the talking and hope for the best. And if the worst should happen? Azure raised an eyebrow. The air was pregnant with silence. Jin did not appear to have an answer, causing Azure to continue to worry. Let's keep going. The elf motioned for them to continue. He and Princess Zadori led the way. Chapter 3. The Realm, Day 588. Rurdum, such a pleasure to see you here. The false sentiment in Princess Zadori's voice was as thick as molasses. All the Nozian guards straightened as Azure's party walked through the crystal forest into view. Who knew how long they'd been waiting for the group to arrive? Rurdum strode forward to meet them, his hand resting on the pommel of his sword in a non-threatening manner. The old knight looked grizzled by the passage of time, his white hair connecting with a short, snowy beard. Otherwise, he appeared clean and well-kempt. His green cloak flowed behind him, the Nozian sigil of a powerful taloned bird with a crown upon its head, set against a two-tone purple shield proudly displayed upon it. Azure thought he looked regal in his polished white steel armor. Princess Zadori, we wondered when you'd show up. A knowing smirk pulled at the corner of his lips. The princess stopped a few feet short of the knight and stood as stiff and straight as a board. I suppose my father sent you to collect me. You would suppose right. You may return with my love for him, but you will not be returning with me. Rurdum tilted his head to the side. Princess, I am afraid you know that won't do. His tone was apologetic. I am not going back, Rurdum, she said firmly. I left of my own accord. This is my quest just as much as it is theirs. The princess gestured back to her traveling companions. He gave them a look of apprehension. Regardless, I must return you to the castle. That is my quest. Then I'm afraid we're at an impasse. Azure had done his best to keep up with the conversation, but it was kind of hard when there was such a sight of splendor in the backdrop. Several yards away, a massive crystal tree stood. Unlike the thick crystals jutting up from the ground and those covered in the fine crystal dust, this tree looked like something made by a glass blowing shop. Its trunk was thick and translucent, having a grayish-silver tint to it. Light tried to pass through, but it barely made it to the other side. The boughs extended close to 50 feet in all directions. It would have cast plenty of shade if for them not being see-through. Though they looked fragile, each supported hundreds of tiny pink crystal flowers. Azure was not sure what Jin had meant when he had said that he had seen Diacetet hanging in a chrysalis, because multiple giant chrysalides were hanging from the tree and none could be differentiated from the others. Each one sparkled like nacre, and veins of color and light pulsed inside. Rurdum turned his attention to Jin. And what say you, your majesty? Will you try to stop us if we take her? Princess Zadori stepped in front of the elf. This is not his decision. No? The old knight shook his head, his expression hardening slightly. It is your father's. If I may, princess. Jin placed his hand delicately on her shoulder before moving to stand beside her and address Rurdum. We have no intention of fighting you. What the princess says is true. She came to me requesting to join us on this quest, not the other way around. I never would have taken Princess Zadori if it was against her wishes. I respect King Algernon greatly, and did not mean to offend by spiriting the princess away in the middle of the night, but she knew that he would not let her leave otherwise. Knowing the king, I'm sure you understand why we did what we did. This quest is bigger than all of us, Rurdum, the princess added. I fully understand the consequences of my choosing to accept it, both for myself and for the future of Pathiana and all of the realm. If you take me back to Nozion, I will just find a way to leave again. This is my destiny. Her conviction was so strong that no one in the Crystal Forest doubted her words. Returning Princess Zadori to Nozion would ultimately end up being a waste of time for all of them. Still, Rurdum shifted his weight. Your father gave me his orders. Even as he spoke, they could tell that he was caving into the idea of letting her go. The old knight's eyes moved from the princess to Jin to Azure to Udin. Despite the princess's words and the fact that they had all made it this far together, there was distrust in his gaze. It seemed to progress the further down the line he went. "These men treat you well?" he asked with the concern of a father.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?